my channel. So I am super excited to be filming this video for you guys. I'm going to be sharing my top tips for preparing to TTC. If you've been following my vlog channel, then you guys know that my husband Miles and I have started to try for our very first child. And so over the last couple of months in preparation for beginning our TTC journey, I have been doing a couple of things just to kind of prepare my body, prepare my life, I guess, and just get ready for TTC. So I asked you guys over on my vlog channel if you would be interested in hearing my tips and tricks, what I've been, putting into practice myself for getting ready to try to conceive, and you said you would be interested in seeing that, so here we are. I have all of my notes written down in my little TTC, wow, that is really hard to say, TTC journal right here. So I am all ready to share what I've been doing over the last couple of months to get ready for baby. I am also actually currently in my very first 2-week wait. I had my first IUI last Friday. If you, again, are new to the channel or you are unaware, my husband is transgender. We did a video on his transition. I'll try and leave that up in the link in the cards for you guys if you're interested in seeing more about that. But because of that, we require using a sperm donor as well as an IUI procedure. And so, yeah, some of my tips will be a little IUI or fertility treatment specific. However, I would say the mass majority of them are applicable to anyone, regardless of how you plan to TTC. So yeah, let's dive right on in. Okay, so the very first thing is pretty obvious, but if you are on birth control, you are going to want to stop. So I actually was on birth control. I started taking it to schedule things for my wedding and then just stayed on because I really liked the regularity of it and predictability. So yeah, I was on birth control, but I stopped taking it. I believe April was my first month off of birth control. So I stopped taking it at the end of March, and our very first attempt was end of September, so this past Friday. So I was off of birth control for around 6 months, although I think being off for 3 months would be just as fine. You just kind of want to give your body a chance to reset itself and regulate your hormones and kind of get back on a regular track. Especially if you really plan to target your ovulation days, you're going to want to be able to know where your cycle is and know when you're ovulating, and so having your body back on a regular cycle on its own, aside from having hormonal birth control help, it's just really helpful. So yeah, first tip is to get off birth control a couple months ahead of time to let your body self-regulate before you start trying. I also wrote down a list of things that I would suggest buying for your TTC. Oh my gosh, am I going to struggle saying this entire video? A couple of things that you might want to consider buying for yourself to prepare for your TTC process. So the first thing, and some of these things I'm just going to list out what I suggest purchasing, and then I'm going to go through them later in this video as I talk about the other steps you can take to prepare for TTC. TTC! Okay, so what I have written down is a BBT thermometer, an OPK kit, or OPK. So I purchased both a cheap version and a digital version, and I'll again go into that in more detail later on. You can buy or download, sometimes they're free, but a TTC or just a period tracking app. You'll want a scale potentially, some prenatals, and then a pregnancy journal. So the pregnancy journal I liked to just kind of buy way ahead of time because I liked having it on hand. Again, because you never really know when you're going to get pregnant during TTC, so having that ready to go as soon as I'm pregnant just gave me a peace of mind that I'll be ready to start documenting my pregnancy as soon as I am pregnant. And I did get the Bump Pregnancy Journal by Write to Me, and I'll leave the link to my pregnancy journal in the description box. I think it's a really, really pretty journal, and yeah, I really like it, so I'll leave it linked in the description box below. I'll also link all of the other items that I personally have been using for my preparation for TTC journey in the description box for any of you who are interested. But yeah, my next tip is to start the prenatals at least 100 days before you start trying to conceive. So it takes about 100 days for a follicle to mature into an egg that is released for ovulation. So by taking prenatals during those entire 100 days when the follicle is maturing, it kind of guarantees the best quality egg is being produced as you can, so that you have a healthy and mature and high quality egg releasing during ovulation, which obviously is a good thing. And I'm pretty sure that most doctors would recommend that you are on a prenatal while you're trying to conceive because especially folic acid or folate is extremely important early on in pregnancy, and so you want to make sure that you are taking that as, you know, basically from day one of your pregnancy. So the easiest way to do that is to pre-take a prenatal vitamin before you start trying to conceive. The prenatal vitamins that I used was the Rainbow Light Prenatal 1, and I really like those vitamins. First of all, because you only have to take one a day. A lot of other prenatal vitamins you have to take 2 or more a day, and I don't know, I just think it's a whole lot easier taking one pill. It is a pretty large pill, but I think prenatals are going to be large no matter what, so it's not too horrible. It doesn't, I've heard a lot of other people complain about different prenatals giving them kind of like a fishy taste, or I don't know, but the taste, the smell, none of that really bothers me with the Rainbow Light. And I was just highly recommended those prenatals. I did ask in a couple of Facebook groups, and like the vast majority of women who responded suggested I do the Rainbow Light. And so I did look into them a little bit myself, and I decided that those prenatals kind of checked all the boxes that were important to me. And so yeah, I've been really happy with those prenatals. However, Rainbow Light did actually recently release a new line of prenatals that are targeted specifically to the different parts of conception and pregnancy. So they have a line where there is a preconception prenatal, then a first, second, third prenatals, at like a different prenatal for each trimester, and then a postnatal or postpartum vitamin, so that you're getting the exact amount of vitamins that you need for each time period of your conception or pregnancy or postpartum period, which I think is amazing. And like I said, I'm in the 2-week wait now, but as soon as I figure out if I am or not pregnant this cycle, then I'm going to be switching to that line so that I can be taking the vitamins targeted at my specific point in the process. Alright, my next tip is to start tracking your cycle as early as possible. Again, I started tracking mine about 6 months before starting trying to conceive. I started tracking everything around April, and this is important because it's really good to kind of get to know your body and know your cycle and when things happen, and kind of seeing the signs for different parts of your cycle and reading your body so that you eventually will be able to concretely pinpoint when you are ovulating, when you actually start trying to conceive. So I used the Glow app and I absolutely loved it. It had different areas for me to record everything that I wanted to track, and it was just a really easy to use interface, and it had a little like percentage in the upper right corner that would tell you each day how likely you are to get pregnant. And it also has a smart learning feature, and so the more that you put into it, the more accurate it gets with predicting your cycle. So like I said, I tracked quite a few things in here. The first was my BBT. So like I said earlier, I recommend getting a BBT thermometer, and this has proven to be one of my most accurate and predictable body symptoms, for at least for my cycle. So the very first thing I do every single morning, right when I wake up, before I get out of bed, before I basically even roll over, is I have my BBT thermometer in my nightstand. I reach over and I take my temperature. Very first thing in the morning. This is really important because your body is at your resting temperature, and so that's what you use to measure the BBT. And why this is important is because the day after you ovulate, your BBT should spike up. So for the first half of your cycle, it will be at a lower baseline. It will spike up after you ovulate, and then it'll stay high for the rest of that cycle. If you are pregnant at the end of that cycle, it will stay high, but if you are not pregnant and you get your period again, the BBT will again drop back down to that low baseline. So again, it's a really good way to see exactly when you have ovulated in your cycle, and this will again help you predict better in the future. The more you track the BBT, it'll be easier for you to predict based on previous ovulation dates when you will ovulate in the future. The next thing you can track is the cervical position and mucus. So I'm sorry if this is a little bit TMI, but it is a TTC video, and this is one of the proven methods to kind of track your fertility and ovulation. And yeah, I found it really helpful to track my cervical position. For my body personally, the cervical mucus, I couldn't really make heads or tails of it, but the cervical position will get high, open, and soft, like right around when you ovulate, and during the rest of your cycle, it will be more low, hard, and closed. So every single night before bed, I would check my cervical position. And again, starting this a couple months before I was actually planning to try to conceive really helped me kind of get to know my body. And because when you first start doing it, you have no idea like what you're feeling or where things should be or how they should feel. And so having a couple months practice to understand and experience your body changing throughout the cycle is really, really helpful. And again, I definitely was able to notice the change in my cervix right before I ovulated, so I knew that it was coming up and to prepare for the ovulation and our IUI. The last two things I tracked in my Glow app is obviously I tracked my period because duh, and then my weight. So you don't have to track your weight. I did include a scale in the items to buy. For me, this is important because I wanted to concretely know my pre-pregnancy weight, since I do plan on sharing pregnancy updates on my vlog or on my YouTube channel here. I wanted to be able to accurately track my weight gain throughout my pregnancy, and so I wanted to have, like I said, an accurate pre-pregnancy weight. So that's why I got myself a scale and started tracking my weight regularly. Alright, and the last thing that I did to prepare for TTC was buying a couple different types of ovulation predictor kits, or OPKs. The one set I bought I think 100 LH tests, which are what you use to predict ovulation, and then it also came with 20 HCG tests, which are pregnancy tests. I forget what brand they were, but they were just like super cheap, those, you know, little skinny strip tests. And I started taking those every single day about a cycle or two before I knew I wanted to start trying. I also bought a pack of digital OPKs. I bought the clear blue digital tests, and this was because the cheap tests, while they are good to use daily so that you don't waste a ton of money on OPKs, they can be a little less accurate, so I wanted something with a little more reliability, like the digital kits, to kind of confirm any positive ovulation results from the cheaper tests. So like I said, I started using the cheaper tests about a cycle or two, so a month or two before our first IUI procedure, and this again allowed me just to kind of get comfortable with it and to know what a positive looked like, and to just kind of, you know, practice makes perfect, I guess. And so when it did came time for the cycle that we were actually trying, I was, you know, I wasn't still trying to figure out how they worked and, you know, how to use them. It was just very much routine. And so, yeah, I just kind of knew how to do it and what read as a positive. And I actually did only start using the digital ones during the cycle where we started trying, I believe. Well, actually, I meant to start using the digital ones a week before I ovulated. However, my cycle is a little bit funny, and it's not like clockwork, and so sometimes it's a little longer before I ovulate in my cycle, sometimes it's a little shorter. And so I was estimating that I had about a week until I ovulated, and so I started taking the digital tests one day before I ovulated because I got what looked to be almost a positive on the cheap strip tests. And I was like, oh, that's not possible because I'm not supposed to ovulate for another month. Well, little did I know, the very next day I ovulated and I had a positive on the digital. So I meant to start using those a week ahead of time just to, you know, be sure I caught it, and it's kind of a good thing that I did because it was a week ahead schedule. So again, that's why I recommend having both the cheap strip tests and the more expensive digital tests, because they each kind of serve their purpose. And yeah, that's pretty much all that I have done before we actually start trying to conceive to prepare for this journey. Like I said, we had our very first IUI procedure last Friday, and so far all seems to be going well. I'm in my 2-week wait. I'm about 4 days out from it. So I'm definitely keeping my fingers crossed, and I will be able to test in about a week and a half to see if I am pregnant. And like I said, I will be doing pregnancy updates on this channel, so let me know if that's something that you are interested in seeing. I'm still kind of debating whether or not I want to do weekly or bi-weekly pregnancy updates. I feel like not enough would happen within 1 week to warrant a video every single week, but then again, I've never been pregnant before, so I don't really know. If you have any questions about anything that I talked about, please feel free to leave me a comment below, and I will definitely get back to you and answer your questions. I will also leave all the products and stuff that I've been personally using in the description box below if you would like to get them for yourself. And I think that's all I have for you guys today. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and please give it a thumbs up if you did. Don't forget to subscribe down below if you would like to follow along with my pregnancy updates if I am in fact pregnant. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!